it's getting on my nerves.
She said 5 minutes.
So, hey, Jan. I saw one
So I can see up close.
Right.
I was like,
Hey, how you doing? How's it going?
and it's a pain, I got to switch
Turn
it.
off the space. Yes.
You guys know basically turn it on. That's very minor. You got both.
Yes.
Turn it down, turn it off, turn it off.
That's really good.
I turn mine down, but sometimes I use GPS. Look at that.
Yeah. Yeah. Anthony's pulling in. So.
Give her a few minutes.
Good to go? Okay.
Where is our American flag? Where's our American flag?
Let's wait.
American flag?
Or no, Ben.
It was here.
Hey, Ben. Oh, he's on the phone. Come on. American flag.
Jake. Jake. Right there.
Remember you showed up at that last
Good call. I didn't even recognize it. We did smart money.
Me too. It's good. Look at Frank. It's good. He was athletics. Basketball, he was.
It's like protocol. It's like
Very.
All right, you ready?
We're ready.
All right. Everybody's ready? Let's get started. We'll do roll call first. Mike Lenz. Kathy Atkinson.
Here.
Craig Quinnett. Here. Maggie Volkering.
Here.
My name's Alan Smith, and we also have Cassie Code Enforcement.
Here.
Let's all stand and do the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Cassie, turn it over to you.
Okay.
Do that one part that you need to read. Oh, I can't see. Actually, I don't know where it is. One of these days I'll get my glasses. I'll be able to see it.
Okay.
All right, anybody that's going to be testifying today needs to stand and raise their hands. Cassie.
That part I'll do, just the next part that says the city has the responsibility of.
Okay, you want me to read that?
Yeah.
Okay. The burden of proving this citations or the citations in this case is on the city. The city will proceed first. Each side will have an opportunity to cross-examine any witnesses who testify, and the board may ask questions from time to time to clarify the record or its understanding of the facts. Upon conclusion of the city's presentation of evidence and testimony, the alleged violator will be allowed, if they so choose, to provide testimony, present evidence, and have witnesses to testify to rebut the allegations. Upon completion of the alleged violator's presentation of evidence and testimony, if any, the hearing shall be closed. Upon closure of the hearing, no further evidence or testimony shall be taken. At that time, the board will deliberate based solely on the evidence presented at this hearing. board will decide whether the violation was committed, and if a violation was committed, what the penalty should be prescribed. Do you have any questions? No questions?
Thank you for reading that.
Sorry.
Sorry about that. We didn't know you had throat problems. I
That's
had
fine.
someone else read it. One's got throat problems, the other's got eye problems. Okay, Cassie, now you can take over.
So we're here on several appeals. And the first set of appeals would be for the rental license. And we have 12 properties on this list. So basically, they have until April to pay their fee, and on every property he owns in the city that is a rental, they've not been paid.
Okay. Are we gonna do these all together or one at a time?
Or do you want to talk about the other one besides the rental license fees? Did you talk about all three?
Which one?
Yeah, rental license
Yes,
fee.
we're gonna do all three.
Yeah.
So then,
Just do another appeal one.
yeah, so then the second set of appeals was for the abandoned blighted urban properties, which we approved that list last month at our meeting. He is appealing the properties on that list. And then the third property he is appealing is for vacant property. So there's a citation for a vacant property on that.
So just so you all recognize the parties here,
Oh, hold on for 1 second. There's one thing I did forget to do.
Yeah.
Anybody that's gonna be speaking here tonight, please stand, raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
You may sit down. Sorry about that.
that's all right. I just want to let everybody know that the code board is represented by me, and the city is represented by City Attorney Alex Edmondson. I believe that the respondent is also represented by counsel as well. I just wanted everybody to know that. We don't have lawyers involved. I just want to understand who the players are.
Okay.
Can you guys hear everything over there? I'm having a hard time hearing
You are?
anything over there.
Can you hear now?
Yeah, I can now.
You may have to speak more closely into the microphone.
Check. Everybody do a mic check. You gotta bring it closer to you, then bring it closer to you.
Check.
Check.
You need to bring it closer to you.
Check.
Just speak loud and clear when you need to.
Use my teacher voice.
Check.
You're good.
I think we're good now. I turned it up a
Yeah.
notch.
All right.
Okay.
Proceed.
So we'll start with the rental properties.
Can't see if I could.
Sure.
We'll go ahead and call Angie, the assistant
Sure.
city clerk now, to establish. She's got the knowledge of that.
Sure.
If you could, Angie.
Come up to the podium, Andy.
And Angie, can you state your name for the record?
Angela Bainey.
And in what capacity are you employed?
I'm employed by the city of Dayton as assistant city clerk.
Give me feedback. You might turn it down. Just bring your microphone up closer.
In your capacity as assistant city clerk, is it your responsibility to be associated with rental licenses?
Yes.
Okay, are you the one that is in charge of managing that and
Yes.
keeping tabs? Okay.
Mhm.
Are you familiar with the rental license program itself?
Yes.
Okay. If you could, please tell the panel exactly, the committee, what exactly you do.
Every April, we get a rental license for each person that owns a rental property. It's based on the rental income. It's 1% of that amount. We also have an inspection fee now. It's $40 a unit, and they are due by April 15th every year.
And have you had a chance to look at the actual ones that have applied and filled out rental licenses for the city?
I did review it again.
And you reviewed it before coming tonight?
I did.
has there been any rental license applied for this
Not
year?
since 2020, that was the last one that was paid.
Okay.
21, there was none. 22, there wasn't one, and there hasn't been one for 23.
Okay. So 21, 22, and of course 23.
Yes,
And how do you know that?
because they're each inputted based on all those properties, and we've got no tax forms or anything.
Now, do each of the properties require a rental license or just the
No,
Mm-hmm. overall name?
each entity.
Entity.
So if they were under different names, they would each require one, but if they were under one entity, they were just one.
And did you also check to see if all of the properties that we're talking about today were under the same entity,
Yes, they were all under his name.
under his name individually?
Yes,
No further questions.
thank you.
Does he want to answer her questions?
It's entitled to it.
Did you want to ask her questions?
You may need to go to a microphone over here and sit down if you're going to ask your questions.
So, my name's Larry Shelton, I represent administrator. With this being said, you looked at it and said there was no rental payments made, or no rental license.
No rental license.
So if rental, let's say my client, he operates at a loss on his rentals, what would it be?
Now, our rental license is based off gross receipts. So it makes no difference if he's running at a profit or at a loss. They take what he takes in from rent and that is his gross receipts and we base it off 1% of that.
Are there any ways to, I guess, because he's attempted to pay, are you aware that he has attempted to pay?
No.
Are you aware that the only reason he hasn't paid is because of the tax issues?
No.
Is there a difference between, in your position, like a land contract, let's say you still own it,
Mhm.
but you're making payments, and somebody else, you're not really renting, but you have a land contract for sale.
Mhm.
Do you look at that differently?
We do not.
So you view it as a rental regardless of how it is?
As long as it's in your name and you're not living there, we consider it a rental dwelling.
Okay, and then real quick, what's the determination on a vacant property and a rental property? How do you
If
tell
the
that?
property's vacant, then you would have to register it as a vacant property. That falls more under code enforcement, but we would have that put in separately stating that it's vacant and they would pay $500 every 6 months to register that as a vacant property.
So there is no just one set fee that you would have to pay if you've got, like, was it not prior to 2020, there was a set fee you had to pay, it was like 50 or $100?
I don't know how long ago that was, but I did look at all his and his were all based off of income. And he had paid, I think only one of the years he was paid on time. So all the rest of them had penalties and interest on them and they were flat fees.
Okay, they were,
They were not. They were not flat fees. They were based off of net, of gross income.
okay. And how is that gross income determined if you haven't provided the taxes?
Well, we expect them to provide their taxes. They can, if they haven't filled out their taxes and it's due by April 15th, they can guesstimate their income, like they know what they're collecting their rent, guesstimate that and then follow up with their taxes afterwards. If there was any difference, then they would just pay the difference with penalty and interest on the difference.
Is there any other way to, I guess, achieve this for each side? Can they show you receipts as far as what they've obtained, or do you need it on a schedule?
We need it on a schedule. We have made exceptions based off accountants sending in certified letters stating what that is. But those are only for people that do not have a Schedule C or E.
And why wouldn't someone have a Schedule C or E?
Sometimes they go into an IRA account, and so they would not show it as income because it's being offset. That's usually the only reason.
Okay, and so as you said here today, is there any way to essentially pay these fees
Mhm.
without providing this documentation that,
You can pay the fees, but eventually we're going to ask for your taxes. I
and,
mean, like I said, we'll accept your money and expect you to provide taxes at a later date upon filling them out, but you are still expected to pay the fee based on your knowledge and then follow up with your taxes. We reconcile it.
would it surprise you that he paid his fee and that it was given back to him in
It would.
2020?
Because I show 2020 in the computer as paid.
Okay.
I don't show anything for 21 or.
But I know you paid. It may be 21.
Angie, can you speak into the microphone
Oh,
a little
sorry,
bit better?
yes.
Both of you, matter of fact. When you speak closer to the microphone. We're having trouble hearing you.
Sorry, is this
I
better?
apologize.
Sorry.
So right now, we're here based on, how much do you, in your view, does he owe?
I have no idea what he's collecting in rent, so it's very hard for me to guess. I mean, I can only look at the past years.
But there are exceptions for somebody that doesn't have scheduled taxes.
An IRA account is the only one I've come across, but
I have no further questions.
Thank you. Angie, while he brought up the vacant property registration, you want to say that you might have a follow, that's okay, you might have a follow-up to mine. Under the vacant property registration, you're also responsible for collecting those?
I do not track those. That is for code enforcement to track
Okay.
and keep track of and send out.
So the records keeper is
Citations.
Cassie for purposes of that? But you
Yes.
collect the fee that comes
I
in,
do.
but not the actual inventory?
Yes.
Okay. No further questions of this witness?
Oh, so you just want me to stay here?
It might be
It's
easier.
up to you, whatever you want, as long as you come back here.
I'll just stay.
And you can have, if you want to have your client right alongside you, that's fine too, if he wants to sit next to you. Mr. Chairman, I'll call Cassie next, is our next witness.
Yes.
Now,
There, do I?
probably, you can stay there. I mean, it's your meeting. If you have any
If
problems,
you're a witness, I suggest you go over there.
it's just all the paperwork.
Easier for everybody to see, or anyone prefer her stay here or at the podium?
She's fine.
She's fine? All right, you stay right there where you're at.
Okay.
Yeah, she's just got a lot of paperwork in front of her, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay. Cassie, if you could state your name for me,
Cassie Patterson,
and in what role are you employed in the city at date?
Code Enforcement Director.
And please tell the board as well as anyone, the onlookers, what you do in that capacity.
A lot. So I keep track of all the vacant properties. We send out notices, citations, we file liens, we,
Let me help you get there. Is it your responsibility to send out the rental license violation notices?
yes,
Is it your responsibility to send out the vacant property registration notices?
yes,
And in fact, this pertains to Mr. Aker. Did you perform in that capacity?
yes.
Specifically, as it pertains to rental license violation, how many separate letters did you send out to Mr. Aker?
We sent out 12.
Okay. So does the board have a copy of those 12 letters? I believe you
I do
should.
believe we do. I have those.
They are the code enforcement uniform citation rental property inspection license on the top. You should have a copy of all those.
And also, in preparation for today, was there a PVA printout that was created for purposes of identifying Mr. Aker's properties?
Yes,
The 12 properties that are in the conversation today, in the discussion today, are they all titled in his name?
yes.
Okay, if you could show that to Mr. Chairman, and circulate that. I don't believe that you have those records in your binders. And what does that PIDN search, what does it do?
So if you search the PIDN number, it brings up the name, the mailing address of the owner, a photo, and it's current as of today.
Okay, and our notices that were sent out, were they sent out to the property owner
Yes,
attached to that?
yes.
As well as, what address did you send all these letters out?
Those were sent to 13300 Madison Pike, Morning View, Kentucky, 41063.
Okay. Now, the violation letters that were sent out for the rental property inspection license, what date did you send those letters?
Those were sent out on February 15th,
Of
2023.
Were all of them sent out?
Yes,
Okay. And how would you have sent that information out?
regular postage mail.
Okay. Just ordinary mail?
Yes,
Okay. And you should have, Mr. Chairman, as well as all members of the board, you should have letters that speak to that.
I do.
Okay. And in this letter, what does the letter consist of?
It basically tells the violation, and it gives you the opportunity to appeal, and then it has the fine.
And pursuant to the letter, as well as our ordinance, how much time do you have to appeal?
7 days,
That's 7 days from what, 7 days from when?
the date of the letter.
Okay, so the date of the letter that's sent out, correct? Now, did you receive from Mr. Aker an appeal?
I did.
Now, in that appeal, strike that. You received multiple
I did.
appeals, did you not?
I did.
And the one that's marked 1 in the form of an appeal statement has multiple citation numbers attached to it.
Correct.
The properties were also located underneath the property location as far as the actual physical addresses as well as the PIDs. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the letters were all mailed out on February 15, 2023,
Correct.
and your representation to the board is that in fact you did mail it that day?
Correct.
And tell the board, I almost said court, but tell the board how in fact what's the process, your normal process for doing that?
So typically we mail them out. We have, the mailman comes in the afternoon. If there's any mail left at the end of the day, I typically take it to the Newport.
That's my
post
question.
office.
So from a custody standpoint, you're the ones that putting the stamps in the envelope the old fashioned way?
Correct.
You're the one that's actually handling the envelopes?
Correct.
And you're the one that's actually making sure that the envelopes get to the mail, is that correct?
Yes.
Once they've been delivered to the postman and or the post office, it's the responsibility of the post office to do their job, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, are you aware that Mr. Aker received notice of those letters?
Yes.
In fact, you didn't just send one notice or one mailing, you did one for each separate property,
Correct.
is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Did he receive notice for all the properties?
Yes.
Because there was not one of the properties that was omitted from his appeal statement, right?
Correct.
Which means that he would have received all of the notices.
Correct.
Okay. Now, he then brought in an appeal statement or signed an appeal statement purportedly and dropped it off. Is that, or mailed?
No, he mailed a piece of paper written out. So then I had and that came in the first.
Okay, what I've got marked here is I believe, you could take a look at that. Is that the appeal form that he submitted?
Yes.
Okay. And did you receive that?
Yes.
Okay. Did he physically hand that to you?
No, he
No.
mailed that in.
You received it in the mail?
Yes.
Okay. And what's the date on that?
The first.
And was that outside in excess of the 7 days that he had to file the appeal?
Yes.
Is it your position at that point that his appeal was void from its inception
Yes.
due to the fact that it was outside the window?
Correct.
Okay.
And I had sent him a letter and told him that he needed to fill out this form.
Despite the fact that he was already outside the time limit, you then
Correct.
gave him another chance to fill out another form?
Correct.
Okay. And when did you give him that notice?
That notice was sent out on the first, and it came back, it looks like on the 15th. Well, came back on the 21st. He mailed it on the 15th.
Okay.
He signed it on the 15th.
Signed off. So even the second time, he was still in excess of the 7-day buffer that was given to him. So
Correct.
despite the fact it was a month after the February 15th date that the initial letters were mailed. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. Is it your position that he's outside on both circumstances? He's outside the time limit with which to appeal?
Correct.
Okay. Now, in addition to the one appeal statement that reflects certain properties, there was another appeal statement that was sent in. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And what property was that second appeal statement?
The second one was 718 Berry.
which was separate than the others, but he had 7/18, he had his own appeal statement, and it was received in our offices on the same day, March 20th, 2023. Is
Yes,
that correct? Again, outside the 7-day window.
yes,
And then there was a third, was there not?
there was.
And same circumstances, but this is for 66 Brooklyn. Is that accurate?
No.
No.
So on the appeal, he had 66 Brooklyn, but citation number 3720 is for 636 Brooklyn. So I don't know if.
It's just a
he was-
clerical mistake, but the intent was
Correct,
liberally construed. The intent
Correct.
was that Brooklyn property.
yes.
Okay. Because he doesn't own a 66 Brooklyn, does he? Okay. That also was received on the 20th.
Yes,
So purportedly, that was also outside the window.
correct,
Okay. The fourth is for a 627 Brooklyn.
yes,
Was that received on the 20th?
yes,
Was that also received outside the window?
yes.
Okay. So the properties in question, if you could tell the board specifically which properties are you claiming there was a rental license violation?
You want me to say them all out?
Please,
3049, 940 Maple, 1001 Fourth Avenue, 505 Ninth Avenue, 947 Maple, 627 8th, 1009 Maple, 936 Maple, 1007 Maple, 627 Brooklyn, 636 Brooklyn, and 718 Berry.
And as of today, May 15, 2023, there's still not a rental license for those properties in question.
Correct.
Are you also asking to impute either fines or fees or anything else associated with those properties?
Yes.
And what would that be?
So as it sits right now, it's the $40 fee for the rental. There is a $100 penalty
Let me stop you there. The $40 fee is for what exactly?
for the rental inspection.
Okay. That was not paid. What's the next one?
That was unpaid. And then there's a $100 fine for that.
Okay.
And then there's a civil fine of $100 per day per violation for the first 30 days and $250 per day until the max of $5,000.
And is it your opinion that he's reached the max fine for
Yes.
each of the subsequent properties?
Correct,
And that fine is $5,000 per property
correct,
times 12.
correct.
So is that right? Is it 12?
Yes,
Yes. So the recommendation is that, or the ask is of the board is to max the penalty for each of them for failure to file his rental licenses.
yes,
And now, about the past years, you're simply worrying about the most current. Is that accurate?
correct.
Okay. Now, turning our attention to the next concern is whether or not these properties would be receiving abandoned urban property status for the year 2024. Am I right on that, Cassie?
That's correct.
Okay. So please tell the board what that means.
So last meeting, we had the approval for the abandoned urban properties, which basically takes the tax rate from 0.47 to 0.75 per 100. These properties have multiple violations, multiple citations, no response from the owner. We've had complaints from neighbors, we've had complaints from tenants, and it's a blighted property.
Okay. And the finding from this board was on the 6th day of March of 2023. Is that accurate?
Correct.
And the list of the abandoned properties that were pro-offered and put onto that list are marked in the exhibit that we're tendering to the chairman now. Those are the properties that are now on the list. Is that correct?
Yes,
It says It says list of 2022 at the
Right.
top of it, but clarify for the board what that means.
So this was our original list of 2022, and if you look on the second to last page, on page 4 or 5, the new properties that were added in 2023, 5 of Mr. Akers' properties were added to the list.
And those are marked by a star, which is over on the left side. And you
Correct.
can see that it was added in 2023 based upon the column all the way in the far right. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
And those are the 5 properties specifically. I want to just make sure that the properties are 1001 4th Avenue, and that is on there for blight.
Correct.
Next one is 304 9th Street, also added for blight.
Correct?
636 Brooklyn, also added for blight.
Correct.
627 Brooklyn, also added for blight.
Correct?
And finally, 936 Maple, also added for blight.
Correct.
Okay. And are you asking, what is your ask of the board this evening?
So on this, we have no fines. We just request that it stay on the list, or Mr. Ager get with me and we'll discuss the blight issues and get those cleared up.
And the only way to do that is to comply with the code
Sure.
and to be removed from the list. Is that
Yes.
accurate?
Yes.
Otherwise, the penalty is what? What's the penalty?
The penalty is, the tax rate will be 0.47, and it'll move to 0.75 per $100.
Great.
That
And that's the only relief you're seeking for that tonight.
is it, yes.
Okay.
There are no fines.
And then lastly, your final relief that you're seeking is a registration for a vacant property.
Correct.
And if you could tell the board a little bit about that.
So this property, we had a complaint on this property back in March 10th of 2021. It looked like the tenant was moving out. There was garbage everywhere. I think at this time I had spoke to the neighbors. They said, yes, they were moving. The property has, I have photos attached. It has sat vacant for, let's see. I've got a picture from May of 2022. Looks like it's vacant. August of 2022, looks vacant. And then there was a couple of citations issued, but we're only today hearing the 3311, which is a $500 vacant property registration. So
Let me-
in this case, if it was rented, we would either need a rental or we would need a vacant property registration.
So let me ask this. There was a uniform citation that was sent out, specifically citation 2020-3311. It was sent out on March 21st, 2023. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
Okay. And that was also sent to Mr. Aker at the address of 13300 Madison Pike, Morningview, Kentucky, correct? And you would have been the one that would have sent that notice as well.
Yes,
And you would have hand stamped it and sent it into the mail.
yes.
And he had, how much time did he have to appeal pursuant to the letter? How much time did he have to
7
appeal
days.
that?
7 days.
Okay. And that was on March 21st. And when did we receive a letter?
This was received on April 10th.
In excess of 7 days, 10 days, 14 days,
Correct.
well in excess of both, all three, right?
Yes,
Okay. And again, you were the one that received the appeal,
yes,
and you're not asking, even though there have been, this is the 4th citation, this is the first one that you're looking at adjudicating and having a remedy by way of a penalty. Is that correct?
correct.
And what's the maximum that you're asking the board to approve by way of a penalty?
Well, our vacant property registration is $500, and that's what I'm asking for, is the $500.
Anything that you need to add as it pertains to the vacant property registration?
No, we just need to get these registered, if they are vacant.
Mr. Chairman, I'll pass the witness.
First off, have you dealt with my client before?
Yes,
What type of working relationship do you have?
In the beginning, when I first started, it was pretty good. And then we had set up several meetings to discuss several of his properties, and he was a no-show for 3 of those. So that was pretty much all the,
Have you all ever been in like a verbal argument or anything of that nature?
no.
And something else, how do you know if something's vacant? What if the person works third shift?
Well, we don't know if it's vacant. However, if the property owner on PVA is not registered at that address, it's either vacant or it's a rental. It's one of the two.
And are any of his properties, is there somebody registered at the PVA? Like, as you just said, showing that it would be a rental?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Your statement was if it's registered with the PVA. So if somebody's not on it, it's a rental. Is that what you're saying?
So what I'm saying is if Mr. Aker is listed on the PVA as the owner, his address is 13300 Morning, what was his address?
Morning View.
Yes, in Morning View, Kentucky, then he is not living in that property. So it's either A, a rental, or B, a vacant property.
So you assumed they were vacant because there wasn't a rental fee assigned or paid?
No, not necessarily.
I guess I'm trying to determine how do you know they're vacant?
Sometimes we ask neighbors, sometimes people say, hey, can you get somebody to cut this grass? Nobody's lived here for 2 years, or sometimes we don't know if they're vacant. So we send out a vacant property registration and we send out a rental license application. And typically people will either call and say, hey, I have a tenant there, or hey, it's vacant, or I'm working on it, or it's going to be for sale. There are all kinds of scenarios that happen when a piece of property looks vacant.
And you made a statement just a minute ago that you're just looking at this year's violations. Is that correct? You're not looking at the past? So if you're just looking at this year's, how are they already maxed out? I mean,
Well, because they're $100 a day,
from
and then they
starting-
bounce up to $250 a day.
So when did you start that process?
So that process starts 7 days after you get the citation. So it's on our, if you look at the letter, so it basically says.
Which letter are you addressing?
The code enforcement uniform citation. It says that the violation is a civil offense. You must pay the above reference uncontested fine within 7 days, or request a writing, a hearing in writing if you choose not to contest the citation. And then it goes on to say that you will be subject to a continuing civil fine of $100 per day for the first 30 days, and a civil fine of $250 per day until the violations are corrected, up to a maximum of $5,000. It's on the second page, right under the notice in the bold black.
Okay. And do you have any certificate of service to show that he received the documentation you're saying? That you
I do not.
So we have no proof that he received it. Is that
We're-
your testimony?
By statute, it's regular mail.
But we have no proof. Is that correct?
And, I mean, let me just.
Well, the proof is,
if
would
I can make
be-
Just one objection, Mr. Chairman. Specifically, which violation are we talking about?
Well, I don't.
Any of them, or?
I haven't seen proof other than the uniform citation that was delivered by the sheriff that shows there was proof.
Delivered by the sheriff?
I'm sorry, I got it. Check's another property issue. I apologize. We've not had one thing showing when he receives it, so you have a 7-day notice that, what if you receive it on the 8th day? You're already in violation. And you really have no repeal for that. It's not a 30-day notice or anything, is it? It's a 7-day notice, correct?
Right.
And would you be surprised that we have documentation that shows he received these after the 7-day process?
Not really. Mail is, but here's the other thing. Did anyone call?
Did you call him?
No.
And we have, so you're saying $40, $100. Do you ever like put a note on somebody's door that they're in violation, or do you just write a citation?
I have put notes on doors,
How many notes have you put on his doors?
several.
Do you have copies of those?
I do not.
Would it surprise you that he will testify that he's never received a notice on a door?
I've put door hangers on a couple of his gates. I typically don't walk onto properties unless there is a tenant that advises me. But yes, I have hung door hangers on Brooklyn. There were quite a few things that I've put on the gate there at the property that's vacant. And right off the bat, I mean, I can't think of any other ones.
So let me
Right
ask
offhand.
you another question. If it's a city property, do you hold the city to the same culpability as you would Mr. Akers?
Absolutely.
So they would have their grass cut,
Sure.
okay, and there would never be an issue about that.
I'm not going to say never, only because of, so our Public Works Department does that. And they were short for a very long time with only 2 employees. So I'm going to say it's rare.
I have nothing further.
Great. Cassie, just to reiterate, specifically as it pertains to the vacant property registration, this was actually the 4th, was it not, the 4th citation letter that he received.
Correct.
And in fact, he received the first citation letter on May 16, 2022.
Correct.
Another one on Halloween, 10/31/2022.
Correct.
Another one, December 12, 2022.
Correct.
And finally, the one that we're here actually seeking relief on, which is the March 21st, 2023.
Correct.
And did you receive any response? Email, letter, text, knock on your door, Facebook post, any response saying, hey, I want to address it?
No.
Okay. Did any of those letters come back that you're aware of?
No.
And in fact, when you were asked the question, how do you know he received it? He filed appeals, did he not?
Correct.
So he must have had knowledge, one way or the other, that he received the notices. Fair?
Yes.
No further questions, Mr. Chairman.
I have one more question. So how many letters did you send out total
For
all the issues here today?
So for the rentals, there were 12 letters that went out. For the, how many did we do on these? For the abandoned urban property, we sent out, there were 5 on that list, 5. And for the vacant property, we sent out 4.
And is it your testimony here that for a long period of time, there was no response on these letters?
Yes,
But then he filed some appeals later. Is that correct?
correct.
So could it possibly be that's when he actually received notice? So he filed appeals?
I mean, nothing came back to our office. I keep track of what comes back and what does not come back. So if it's not returned, and that is taken as a delivered letter.
Nothing further.
Thank you. I have nothing further for many of my witnesses.
Okay, I'll call my client to the stand. Just stand over here. Yeah.
I have these that have been,
Could you state your name for ladies and gentlemen of the council?
Octavian Aker? I have these, I don't have these.
Okay. And when did you receive these notices? Were they all on time?
For the most part, I have never received a notice, even within the 7-day. I have multiple examples of the notice itself being filled out and stamped in the office by Casey on, say, like the 15th. And then I will get a envelope with a postmark 3 days after that fact. And that's just the postmark, I'm assuming, from here. And then the mail service to Morning View, Kentucky leaves a lot to be desired, to put it in a not harmful way. I have never received a single notice within the 7-day notice that's saying that I have time to appeal it.
And have you ever received any type of documentation on your door stating that there's a violation you need to take care of?
No, I have not received anything at 13,300, and I have not received anything on the individual properties that I have been cited for. And I'm always in the town, either working or working right at my shop in Newport. I have a great conversation and rapport with all of my tenants, all families. And they always tell me if they see anything odd, if they see somebody from the city walking around my properties, they would tell me if they saw anything hanging on my properties. I've never seen anything on the ground. She said she's put several on the gate at Brooklyn, which has been an ongoing issue. I've never seen anything there, never seen anything on the ground, never seen anything on the door. It's got a covered porch on front and back, never seen anything on the porches. So,
Well, you just made an odd statement. You said that they would call and tell you if somebody's walking around your property. Have they ever called and told you that she's walking around your properties?
yes, several times. Not only walking around, sitting out in front, they claim seemingly being harassed. Yes, multiple times on multiple properties.
Was there a code enforcement officer prior to her?
Yes.
What was your working relationship with that person?
Rich and I had a very good relationship I think it was around 5 years. As a matter of fact, he called me probably 3 or 4 months ago, asking me if I had any properties in the city because he had sold one of his. He had an elderly couple living in it, and he was trying to find them a home. I think that kind of attests to the relationship that we had. At least he had a certain amount of respect for me and what I did, asked me if I had anything available. So
Did he ever approach you when you had a violation?
he didn't actually approach me if I had a violation. He actually would contact me pre-violation. His basic concept was he wanted to make sure the city was safe, the city was good. He wasn't out to just produce revenue, that he wanted to make sure everything was up and in good condition. And that if he could work one-on-one with me or any other owner before he had to go through all the paperwork of filling out, typing in the system, sending out the things, he's like, he'd rather do it that way. I was like, I would much rather take care of things before it goes into this situation myself.
Now, as you heard, code enforcement officer testify that she really has not had any dealing with you. Is that correct?
That is absolutely incorrect.
Could you advise the ladies and gentlemen of the council if you've ever had any issues that, other than what she has said?
Exactly.
Well, we can start with one of the properties that's,
Speaking to the microphone so they can hear you.
I think the longest going one is the property on Brooklyn, 627 Brooklyn. She had contacted me about that property, basically asking me to come in and ask me what my plans were with it, stating that it was on the city's list of potential problems or blighted properties. So I came in, we had a meeting, it was cordial. Told her what my plan was, that I'm just slowly rehabbing it. I'm one person, just taking my time, doing the best I can. And that was basically the end of that conversation. In that meeting, she didn't mention anything about any kind of vacant property registration or hand me any forms to fill out of vacant property registrations. No mention of violations on vacant properties. And then, can't remember exactly, but I would say it was within a month or two of that meeting, I received the first violation on that property, which we are, I believe, in litigation on. Just a straight up $500 violation for failure to register a vacant property.
And did you receive this after the 7-day notice?
Yes. Yes.
And
Like I said, I literally have not received, I don't know that, they said they've sent out 12 since the beginning of this year for I mean, I have everything that I've received as far as the rental license, which is one of the things we're here for today. I think I have 4 or 5 of those. They're saying that 12 was sent out. I definitely didn't receive 12. I can't say they didn't send out 12, but. I
Mr.
definitely-
Aker,
Yes.
you did receive 12. You
Casey,
appealed.
Casey, you know,
No, I received, that violation came in 3 envelopes, not 12 different envelopes, came in 3 envelopes, which is exactly why I sent it back on 3 different separate petitions, because I figured there was a reason that it had been sent out in 3 envelopes. Got them all.
Mr. Sheldon, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We won't be interrupting again.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay. And so have you ever had any other interactions with the code enforcement officer?
Yes, 2 other in particular that,
Would you advise, ladies and gentlemen, of this council hearing?
so one of the first ones, after the registration issue, which had already upset me, I had a tenant on Maple, and I just received a random violation. I believe it was a $250 violation for a mattress that had been put out in front of the house, which in my opinion, it would have been easy enough to just walk up the stairs and say, you need to wrap it. It was a new tenant. I think they'd been there less than a year. But just got a $250 violation for leaving a mattress on the sidewalk with no wrapping on it, which, you know, that's the rule, I guess. So I called the tenant up and said, hey, you got to wrap that mattress. I think they're available at the city, wherever. Go to Walmart. You have to wrap it. You have to take it back off the sidewalk until the next day of trash. And there's a $250 fine. It might have been $100. I can't remember the exact fine, but I know it was a fine, and it was substantial for a single parent. Anyway, she got extremely upset, said that she was just trying to clean her house, blah, 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 blah. I was like, well, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you know, it's already past the appeal process. I always get these things late. We can't appeal it. That's the situation. So a couple of days later, she had called me, my tenant, upset again, and said that Casey, the code enforcement lady, had came into her place of work, and she asked if there was anything that she could do about this fine, that she had wrapped it, she was waiting to put it out. And my tenant was told that I was basically lying to her that I had never received a violation for a mattress on her property, and that I was basically lying to my tenant to extort more money from her. That is the exact moment I ceased all conversation with Casey, because I was literally called a liar to my tenant and to my face. And then there's another one right after that, had a complaint, supposedly a neighbor complaint about a tenant living on 9th Avenue.
Mr. Chairman, I would just ask, Larry, I would object just for
Yeah,
relevance.
absolutely.
I mean, we're
Well,
way down the rabbit hole.
I was figured you would. So what we're going to do?
Okay, sure.
Check this out, because we're actually, let's stick to what we're here for.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So, and after you all had these issues, is that when the citations started rolling in?
Yes, weekly,
And
literally weekly.
if you would have been spoken to, would you have corrected the issue prior to any?
Well, for 5+ years, the same exact number of tenants. I have not bought a house since these issues started. And for 5 years previous, I don't believe Rich put out a single violation. I could be wrong, but I don't believe a single violation was issued. So yes, I was always willing to do whatever was needed or keep things in proper maintenance. And if there was an issue even with a tenant, I would go directly and talk to the tenant.
And last thing, so it's your testimony here today, you didn't receive half the notices roughly of what's been declared.
Correct.
When you received them, you filed appeals.
Correct.
And
Well, I'll give you another example for the very last one, which is this other failure to register a vacant property, which I have under contract, which has been under contract, which is also being cited for being failure to pay a rental fee. I don't know how it could be both, but anyway, so I got this and what was I saying? I can't remember what I was saying. But, yeah, I can't remember.
I have nothing further.
Thanks.
Council.
Thank you.
Oh, I know what it was. So I appealed this one. I appealed this one and I never even
We
received.
have to wait till he gets the tone.
Mr. Aker, how long have you owned property in the city of Dayton?
I think I bought my first house in 2005, 6, no, maybe 2008.
And there were years prior to 2021 that you actually came in and applied for a rental license, correct?
Correct.
So tell the board why you don't have a rental license for 2021, 22, and 23.
Well,
Sir, my question is,
Hey, can you switch questions?
please tell the board why you do not have a rental license for 21, 22, and 23.
2 reasons. One, I started trying to offer homes to people in the neighborhood so that they could actually be a homeowner. So I started doing land contracts with some of the people, some of the families, which one of your notices even shows that there are multiple affidavits already on file showing that, but I'm being cited for those as well, although they literally claim that there are affidavits on file. 2, after 2019, even after I had paid my fee, I was literally, and I'm just reading from this letter, if the request asking for tax documentation to prove my application for my license fees for each individuals that weren't under an affidavit or were not at the time land contracts. And this one literally says, if the requested documentation submitted to the city of Dayton by August 2021, the city intends to initiate a criminal prosecution or civil proceedings against you. You may avoid this prosecution by complying with section 101, submitting the necessary tax documents. So at that point, even though I had paid all of my fees, which I did every year up until this point, I was still being basically.
So Mr. Aker, you don't deny that you have not filed your residential license application fee for 21, 22, and 23, correct? You don't deny that.
I do not, well, I don't.
It's a yes or no.
I guess, no.
Okay. Do you live at the Madison Pike address in Morningview?
Yes, I do.
And that's, what address specifically is it?
That address is 13300 Madison Pike.
And
Morning.
that's where you reside.
That's correct.
And you also admit that you do not reside anywhere in the city of Dayton. Is that correct?
I do stay, I have one house here that I have a room in and a garage. So I stay there quite a bit. So yes, I
Well,
do stay here.
Your residence is not in the city of Dayton. Is that
That's not
correct?
what you asked. You asked if I stayed there.
Is your residence in the city of Dayton?
You mean like on my driver's license?
Yes, sir.
No, it is not.
You're also aware, at least you indicated that there was a lawsuit that was already, we won't get into the merits of the lawsuit, but you're aware that there is a vacant property ordinance that deals with subsequent taxation of property that's vacant, correct?
I am aware that there is
There's an ordinance.
city ordinance that's saying that a property needs to be registered if it is vacant.
That's correct.
Yes, like I said, we're under like a lawsuit and litigation on that because
But the 5 that we're here for today, you never registered those 5 addresses.
we're not here for 5 failure to register vacant properties.
There
We're
was a
here for
blighted.
one other one.
I'm sorry, for blighted. For the 5 blighted properties, you did not file for those blighted properties, did you not?
File what? Did I not
I'll-
file what?
I'll
You're
come-
going from vacant properties to blighted properties.
I'll come back
I
to
have picture
I'll-
proof of the blighted properties if we want to discuss those. You're discussing the vacant registration properties, which are on 2 properties, which I was never notified of. I was just instantly violated. There was nothing on my door, nothing on the property. I didn't receive any type of application to register said properties. I was just violated.
Mr. Aker, you indicated that you came into the office and you saw them stamp a certain date on the actual appeal, and then it was changed by the time it came back.
I didn't
to
see
you?
anything stamped anywhere in an office.
Okay, so did you physically come into the office to have the appeals registered, or did you mail them?
No, I mailed them.
Okay.
Are
so
we talking about these, the ones we're here for today?
That's correct. The
I
ones
mailed
that-
those.
Okay, so you did not come into the office for any purpose, or for the actual hand tendering of the appeals. Is
So
that
these correct, these appeals, that is correct.
Okay. And I think that you also just testified that you were literally weekly, is what I have highlighted, receiving notices from the city.
I said at times, yes, I was getting some weekly.
Clarify for the board what those times were.
I could go back home and dig them all up. I have a whole stack.
Okay,
I
so
don't know which ones I received and which ones I didn't, but I do have a stack of them, yes.
I have no further questions. This witness.
Right, and so the vacant property that has not been registered, and nor has it been rented out. Why?
I'm working on it, or I was working on it until they filed a lien against it, and
And is that when you stop?
yes.
I have nothing.
Nothing further. That's all I have. You done, Larry? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Were you gonna call anybody else?
Nope, I rest.
The only thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move all the exhibits in, all the letters. There are a bunch of them, but there's 12 well, you heard her testify, 12, 5, and 1. So there's a total of 18 letters that are gonna be submitted into the record,
Along with these.
along with those. Do you have any objections to that?
Yeah, I will object that they're being entered. We can't have proof that you received them, but this is standing objection.
Okay.
You're good.
Mr. Chairman, I guess you'll have to rule on if they're coming in. He's objected to them just under a standing objection. We've asked that they be put into the record. So it's your call to determine if the letters come in.
I would advise, put everything into the record that's requested by the parties. And that's my advice to the board. It's all been presented. There's all been evidence and foundation laid for it appropriately with witnesses. And so, in my opinion, you should accept all the evidence. Better than not accepting something and call it out for it later on.
Motion and second, yes.
I'll make a motion to accept the evidence we received today.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Let the record reflect that it was unanimous vote to approve that motion.
Mr. Chairman, did you want closings, or do you want us to rest as is? It's your time to deliberate.
A
but if you
closing
want-
would allow the parties to summarize the evidence and present to you what they believe the board should do. I would recommend that you allow them to brief closings.
I don't have objection to that. You want to,
Yeah, he gets to go first this time. I
Okay.
get to follow it up.
First off, I'd like to thank you for allowing me to be here, to represent my client on this. I think we've all heard that there's potential violations, but they have not offered any proof of the violation other than a viewing. I've seen no photographs. I've seen nothing here that shows a violation. So essentially what we're doing is, even as a police officer, you're allowed, they have video cameras. You can see what's going on. Right here, we have nothing. We don't know. We're just having to trust one word. There's no photograph evidence. There's no investigation. There's no proof that they're vacant, that they're rental. We're just happenstance thinking. So what we know is one side testifies that notice was sent out. As an attorney, I will promise you that for service for an attorney, now that's not the law here, but the way we guarantee it's certified mail or service by sheriff. We don't have that here. My client testified that he received them after the notice. There's some issues going on that have created these circumstances that he would like to correct. The problem is, notice, there's never been one conversation of, hey, get this up to par. And he would comply. That's the key. Now, the other aspect is, or what we have to determine, which my esteemed counsel brought up, is he wants to pay the rental agreement. That's the tax issue that has the problem. So how does the city benefit? Why can't you allow somebody to pay the highest amount? Like, not even get the benefit of a tax write-off or tax assessment. All right, we think that you should pay this much. I mean, there should be some type of option so the city gets their money. And he continues to do what he needs to do, and we all work in conjunction. So right now we have an appeal. We don't really have notice. We really don't even understand what the issues at hand are, other than he needs to file a rental property agreement. He wants to file. He wants to pay this city. He loves this city. He loves his tenants. He wants to pay. We just got to come up with a number. And it may be higher than anybody else pays, but he wants to pay. Nothing further.
Thank you, Michelle. There's a reason the rental license exists. The rental license is the gateway to collecting revenue that funds the city, that pays for our police and our fire and the people that are sitting here today and this building. By having a rental license, you get a tax return that reflects what type of income is generated in the city of Dayton. They're using our services. They're using our police, our fire, our various municipal services. They have to pay what's expected, which is their fair portion pursuant to the ordinance. It also allows for inspections. It allows for the orderly inspection of a property to ensure that there is compliance from a code standpoint internally, not just on the outside of what you can see, but inside. We don't know the condition, perhaps, of Mr. Akers' properties on the inside. Maybe they're perfect. Maybe they're beautiful. But we've got that option of making sure, just like everyone else in the city that has to do it, he has to comply. That's the second aspect. So once you've received the fee, which is nominal, which is a paltry fee in comparison to the services that are rendered by the city, the fee's done, the taxes are then generated, no problem. Just take care of your property, make it look orderly like the rest of us, and move forward. That's the first issue. We know that he's aware that these things exist. There was not a scintilla, piece of evidence that says, oh, I'm new here. I don't know this. We know that he's been in the city for 2005. It sounds to me like perhaps he's been able to skate by on charm or what Lord knows what else for many years. The bottom line is he doesn't want to comply, or he would have come and paid the fee already before he showed up tonight. You heard evidence from a city clerk who had to leave that hasn't been paid up till now. You heard evidence from the code enforcement director that she sent these notices. He could have introduced an envelope, something reflecting that the notices weren't given to him within an orderly time. And I would understand if the board would have some compassion towards that. He didn't. He alluded to it, talked about it, but there was not a piece of evidence that he received it late. The first thing I'm going to do if I get a late notice is come to you and say, look, I'm going to highlight it, put it on your desk and say, it's not my fault. The post office. He knows the rules. He chooses not to follow the rules. He made insinuation, of course, the fact that there's been an appeal on another matter. Clearly, he knows the rules. And all we're asking for is that he gets in line with the rest and be a good city steward and do what needs to be done to make sure that his rental properties are in compliance. That's the first issue, the rental license. The second is the 5 properties that were on the abandoned list for blight. Do your thing. Come in, let the city know we're not asking for a fine on that, just do it. And lastly, it's the vacant property registration. We know that he knows. We know that he's requesting it, or that it's requested of him, and he chose not to do it. We've asked for the maximum fine on all 12 properties as it pertains to the rental license. That's a big deal. Because if they were on the payroll or if they were on the tax rolls, and if we're aware of them, we're getting, of course, the fine or the fee. We're also going to be getting the occupational taxes that are going to be driven by it. So we're asking for the fine, $5,000. And I believe on the vacant property registration, we're asking for the minimum amount, 1 citation, which is $500. All we want is compliance. That's why you're here tonight. That's why we spent the last hour and 15 minutes on Mr. Aker. Thank you for your time.
All right, is that it from both of you?
Yes.
All righty. Well, at this time, we will deliberate and decide what we are going to do.
So if I could make a suggestion, you have 3 different buckets here.
Yes.
You've got the rental
Rental
inspection
license,
license fee,
blight.
you've got the urban abandoned properties, and you've got the 1 vacant property. I think you should discuss each one separately and decide liability, and then if you found liable, then the damages, then move on to the next one. So that's what I would recommend that you do, so it's not confusing.
Okay.
Put them in any order you want to go. You can go with the,
Do you have a total for the rental license?
so
Oh, okay. We're gonna take a couple seconds
Just take a
here.
break.
One of our board members,
there are 1, 2,
we're gonna take a short break. One of our board members had to leave for a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Gotcha. Thank you.
We'll take a short break.
I just did. Cassie's making some calculations here, so be with you in a minute. So Chairman, you want to talk about initially the rental inspection properties? Is that correct?
Yes, the rental
Okay.
license, the blight, and the vacant property.
Yeah, and that's, so just so you're aware,
Is that for all three?
That is for all 12 rentals. You're gonna do the rental first?
Yes, we're gonna do the rental license first. and then-
The blight is not. They just see that on the list, we're off.
you guys are going to need to talk to the microphone when you're speaking.
And then,
They need to be able to hear you.
Oh, we're just talking while we're on break.
so
Where the?
They're not here.
They went to the bathroom. Okay. Well, let's hold on. Hold on. They in the restroom. Okay, let's hold on until they get back.
Okay.
What's the number?
61, 68,
So, but just on the rental property.
that's on the rental property. And then on
So
the,
it's 5,000.
well, 500 is the penalty.
Okay.
480 is
It's the
the
original fee. Okay, they're back in. Let's go back on the record. So just, so
We'll
everyone knows,
convene the meeting.
we're back talking about the rental license fees and Cassie's calculating the amount. that-
So on the rental license fees, if the maximum fee would be $480 for the actual rental license, the $100 penalty would be $1,200, and the violation fines would be $60,000 with a total of $61,680. And that is for the 12 properties on the appeal.
And that's the first one we'll be discussing.
The second group, there were no fines. It's basically a vote if they're going to stay on the list or be removed off the list. But
Is that the blighted property?
the blighted properties, you've already approved for them to be on the list at the last meeting. And that would be your call.
So why is there no fine on blighted properties?
Well, because it's just so they're just going to be on this list. This list increases their tax valuation. It doubles it. He's just appealing this decision to be on this list. There was no citation.
Okay.
There was no violation. He's just appealing
Okay,
being
now I
put on this
understand.
list. The
Everyone
third,
else understand? All right, go ahead.
and then the third situation is the vacant property. And that would be, we're willing just to go with the $500 fine on that. That's what the vacant property registration cost. And that's what we'll go with. If you, $500, it's $500 for the first 6 months, $500 for the second 6 months, and $1,000 a year after that. He has been cited 4 times and just for the record, and this is the only appeal that I've received. So we're willing to forego the other fines and just do the $500.
How many vacant properties does he have?
That would be a question for him.
That's not,
What was the question?
Okay,
it's not to be considered.
okay.
It might be easiest to do the least vacant property first
Yes.
and the
A rental
urban
license?
property second, and do the third, the rental property inspection last.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you
I would do
said.
the vacant property first, the one.
Vacant properties first,
That's the one where city
and that's $500.
requesting a $500 fine.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the $500 fine for the vacant property.
I'll second.
All right, all agreed?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And now we'll do the rental license?
The abandoned list.
I would do the, yeah, do that.
Oh, okay.
Blighted.
Together, same thing.
I'd like to make a motion that the properties that were added to the abandoned blighted property list remain on the list that we voted for last month.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. And now we'll go to the rental license.
Should we talk about, like, I agree, but do we have to then agree on the amount up to?
I would.
So I think there's enough evidence that definitely there should be the fine for the rental license.
Sure.
And we have to decide, I guess,
What
No
the fine?
max?
Yes, that's up
we
to you
decide
guys.
the amount before we motion.
I don't. I don't agree with $61,000.
They're trying to figure out
We
what the
do, we
fine
don't.
should be. The fine is up to you.
Why
You
not?
can find them.
That's just, Jay.
You need to all, I'm sorry.
It
you
all
can't-
has to
you
be
cannot
on
speak
record,
in
so you
front
gotta
of
use
it.
your microphone.
It has to be on the record and spoken in the microphone.
We can have discussion about it, right?
Discussion has to be open
Yeah,
on the
Okay.
microphone.
On the record, yeah.
And just to make sure you talk in your microphones, because we're developing a record and we want to make sure that everything is on.
Because there might be an appeal from this decision, and the court needs to be able to review all the discussion.
The maximum fine right now is $61,680.
Well, my view on that is I don't agree with $61,000. I don't know
Why not?
what I will agree to right now, but I don't think he should be fined $61,000.
Why not?
I agree that that he needs to have the rental property.
Speak in the microphone, please.
I agree that he needs to have the rental property licensed, but I don't think he should get the max penalty.
I think he does. He's been here since 2005 and he's known about it. So what's the problem? He hasn't paid any of them, so.
That's your opinion.
I think you should, just based on the evidence that the city gave, plus his own testimony, that, he knew. Can't
I
read writing
concur.
without my glasses.
I concur that we should go along with the $61,000 fine. 18 years is long enough to not be showing progress. And I just think that enough is enough.
It was, my notes were just that he knew, and then our previous code enforcer, that's the past, didn't really enforce. But that's not an excuse, just because we have someone now who is following code, that's just not an excuse not to follow code now.
And your recommendation
The
is?
recommendation is the $61,680.
I'll second.
So are you making a motion?
We can put that together, right? Want to make a
Yes.
motion that. I'd like to make a motion that we impose a 61,600,
Approve.
we're approving a fine of $61,680 for the rental license violations on the 12 properties.
Okay, Kathy has made the motion.
I'll second.
Mike Lenz is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Let the record show everyone has agreed, and except for Craig Cordet, he disagrees. Let's take a vote. So it's, the ayes have it?
Aye.
The ayes have it.
So I'm putting together the orders for you guys, so you have something for the appeal. So I just did one set for our records. I'm doing the other set now. I have it for you in a second. You'll have to sign it first, so.
Officially. We can make a motion. Cassie, do you have anything else for us tonight?
No, I do not.
I'll make a motion to end the meeting.
Do you have a second? All in favor?
I second.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion, meeting adjourned.
Yeah. Well, we just finished this. Interesting.